Welcome, Dr. Sharon Stills, who is, by the way, the host of the Mastering Menopause 3.0 Summit. So congrats on that. Can't wait to tease a little bit of content from it. Before that, though, we want to ask some questions. And I'm going to ask you to do something unusual, and that is to do an intro of yourself. If there were, I know there's so much, but if there were three things that you wish all of our listeners knew about you and your background, what would those three things be?
Does being Moses, your dog's godmother, count?
We'll give that as a bonus. As a bonus.
That's a bonus because that's my new favorite title. But hi, I am Dr. Sharon Stills. Three things I would love everyone to know. One, I am a naturopathic medical doctor with over 23 years experience, and I have made it my mission to help women balance their hormones and transition through menopause so they feel better than they've ever felt before. So I'm really about busting myths about the aging process. So that's one thing. Let's see.
You had me at hello. Thank you.
So the second thing, I guess, would be how did I celebrate my menopausal transition? Because I really believe in ritual and doing something special to mark all the occasions in our life. And menopause, which is not a disease, it's a natural transition, in my opinion, deserves to be celebrated. So I climbed Kilimanjaro and stood on top of the mountain. I literally stood on the summit a year to the day. So menopause is defined as 1 year without your period. I literally got to stand on the summit. They lost our luggage. So our trek got delayed. And at first I was all annoyed, but then it was like, no, the universe has your back. And so because our trek got delayed because they lost our luggage, I literally stood on the top of Kilimanjaro at my 1 year since having a period. So it was truly celebrating menopause. And not only for myself, to remind myself, but to remind anyone else that this is truly not the end, that this doesn't have to slow you down, that this can really be the beginning of a special, special chapter and time of your life. So the second thing. And the third thing, I guess, is that I'm truly committed. My work is really my passion. It's my life. So much so that I am coming out of my semi-retirement and opening a 7,000 square foot clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona, because I want to be of more service and help more women and help more people feel well. And to me, menopause is this time to truly pause and to think about your life on every level, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and to really understand that we have so many different aspects and layers to us, and that you deserve to take this time and focus on you. Like, me first is totally cool. Me first is okay. It's not selfish. To me, it's mandatory. It's time for women to put themselves first on all levels and truly figure out what you want to do with this one precious life you've been given. Because at menopause, you're typically in your 50s, maybe you're in your late 40s like I was, maybe you're in your early 60s, because I have some patients like that too, who are like, is my period ever gonna stop? But they're still with the proper health habits and movement and all the things. There's so many decades ahead of you, and it's like, what do you want to do with that? Because now you may not be able to birth physical children, but you can birth your passions, you can birth creativity, you can birth new experiences, you can birth whatever it is you want. And so the first step to that is really physically feeling good, because it's hard to really care about anything else if your body is aching or not behaving. So those are three things that I am really passionate and care about and how I feel.
So big, so big. And I didn't know that about you. I mean, I didn't know the Kilimanjaro story. I didn't know that. That was huge. Yeah. Okay. I love that. So, all right. I want to ask you some questions. I'm going to start with a downer, and I'm sorry to do that, but I feel like we need to know this. And if you could say, what are we doing wrong? What are we getting wrong right now with regard to all the information that's out there? Women who are either entering perimenopause, maybe they're already through it, but what collectively are women getting wrong about their menopause and that transition?
We're getting wrong that it has to be a time that sucks, that it has to be a time filled with problems, with night sweats, with hot flashes, with mood swings, with crankiness, with weight gain. We're getting wrong that hormones are not part of the answer. Bioidentical hormones, of course. I'm always talking about bioidentical, but
Yeah.
we're getting wrong that we're clinging to old, improper medical thoughts. We're getting wrong that we have to have our mother's menopause or their mother's menopause, that we can't have a different experience. We're getting wrong that aging is scary and aging. So I used to always say I was an anti-aging doctor. And then I realized like our words have so much power.
Yeah.
And I thought, wait a second, why would I be anti against something that it's like ridiculous to be against? Because it's happening. No matter what, it's happening. Whether you want it to happen or not, it's happening. So why not become a pro-aging doctor, which is now what I say on my website and my bio, that I'm pro-aging, that it can be a beautiful experience, that it's truly a gift. It's like a privilege. Not everyone gets to age. Not everyone gets to see their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. And so why not enjoy it? We're getting wrong that it was better in our 20s, right? Like if you could wave a magic wand and say you could be 25 again, I'd say thanks, but no thanks, not interested. I'll stay right where I am. Thank you very much. So we're getting a lot wrong. We're getting confusing information. We're getting wrong that we want to do it naturally. We want to go through menopause naturally. So we're going to skip bioidentical hormones as part of the solution. When you really think about root cause medicine, the root cause of menopause, which I'll say again, is not a disease, it's a natural transition. The root cause is that the ovaries have said, hasta la vista, going to Hawaii. I got a hammock with our name on it. And the ovaries are no longer producing hormones. So the root cause is to safely and properly replenish those hormones because we can live longer than our ancestors did. And we don't want to do it without hormones, because if you do it without hormones, you're not going to have the brain function. You're not going to have the cardiovascular protection. You're not going to have the bone protection. You're not going to have the immune system regulation. You're not going to have some of the fun stuff like the nice hair and the nice skin and the nice nails and the body that hasn't gained 20 or 30 pounds that you can't get rid of. So we can't, we're doing it wrong when we think, oh, I can take a supplement and stop my hot flashes and that'll be fine, because we can't supplement our way out of a hormone deficiency. So we're really doing it wrong when we get in our own way and think we're gonna get through this without the support of bioidentical hormones. And then to tag on to that, we're doing it wrong when we think bioidentical hormones are the only solution. So we're doing it wrong when we think, oh, I just need bioidentical hormones to get through menopause, and we're not paying attention to our movement, to our sleep, to our diet, to our community, to our liver, to our gut microbiome, to our fascia, to our dental health. Like we're doing it wrong when we don't realize hormones are an important part, but that they have to go into a body that has a healthy, balanced terrain.
I love that. I love that. Okay. And I want to come back and kind of crack that even further wide open, because I think you nailed it. And this is part of the elephant in the room for a lot of people. They think, well, I want to do this naturally and I don't want to do hormones. And I think struggling internally with the incongruence, like of what I want and what will make me feel good. And isn't that cheating, to do that? Or isn't it wrong? Or isn't it fighting nature and what was intended. So what do you say to all those kind of objections that bubble up for women?
Well, I say sometimes we're like our own worst enemy and we self-sabotage ourselves. And it doesn't get more natural than me. Like, I'm a naturopathic medical doctor. I have been living, eating, breathing this lifestyle for over 30 years. Like, I'm the OG of gluten-free. When I went gluten-free back in like the 90s, like they didn't even know what it was. I would go into a restaurant, say I'd like a burger without a bun, and it would like blow everyone's mind. And they'd have to go get the chef out from the, we don't understand. What do you mean, miss? And I'd be like, just put the burger on a plate. They're like, but it needs a bun. I'm like, I don't eat gluten. So like I've been doing this a long time, and my hormones have, they're like my besties. You know, if I get to only pick one thing I'm going to my desert island with, it's my hormones. And so I don't really know why we were, I mean, I guess we were created to like lose our hormones, because who wants to be having a baby when you're 70, right? Like, you know, I'm a bubby. I chase around, you know, a 2-year-old and 4-year-old, and that's great. And I love it. And it's one of my whys of why I stay healthy, why I want to feel great. But I don't want to be doing that 24/7, right? It's nice to love on them and then send them home. And so our hormones wind down because there's a time and a place for having babies. But we live longer now. Technology, medical advances, we live longer than our ancestors did. So they didn't have to worry about feeling good after their childbearing years, because
Mhm.
they died either during childbirth or shortly thereafter. And that was like their purpose. And women nowadays, I mean, a lot of women choose to not even have children, which is totally fine. We have larger purposes, we have different purposes, and we can be fulfilling on those purposes. Like my plan, I'll tell you my plan. So my plan is to live to 130, because, and I don't think that's like cuckoo. Like I used to think 120, because we're biologically, like we can live to 120. And
Yeah.
with everything we have available now, but then when I started doing like some fasting and introducing that into my lifestyle, I was like, I'm getting an extra 10 years, because all this autophagy I'm inducing, I'm adding 10 years on. So now I say 130. And my plan is to be like really productive. Like I said, I'm 56 and a half. I'm going to be 57 next year. And right when I turn 57, I'm opening up a brand new huge clinic. Talk about giving birth to like sextuplets. I mean, that, so I plan on being participatory and giving back and making a difference, like till 100. From 100 to 130, I plan on having a really awesome patio, hopefully staring at the ocean, a nice hammock, and I feel like I'm going to have earned taking it easy. I'll be playing with my grandbabies and their grandbabies and maybe their grandbabies, and just kicking back and enjoying life. But there's no reason, we have to change the mindset. So we saw someone in their 50s, we saw them like you and me in our time of growing up. When I was younger and I looked at age 50, it looked kind of old to me, right? And that's what was shown to us. So we have to change those beliefs, and we can be that generation. Like, we are strong. We are a tribe. We are like 1.2 billion women going through menopause in the year like 2025.
Yep.
That's insane.
That's
So
in
we
3 months. I mean, we're there, right?
right.
Yeah.
So like we can change it. I know, like I'm changing it for my granddaughters. They don't look at me and think I'm old. They expect me to run around, to chase them, to carry them, to put them on my back, to do all the things. It's like they don't think, oh, Bubby's old, we can't ask her to do that. So I'm changing what they think about a grandparent is, or what an older person is. And
Yeah.
so we all have that capability, and we can actually change the consciousness of what aging truly is. That's exciting to me.
It is so exciting. Yeah, there's never been a better time. And I also think it is what makes everyone just a little nervous, because there's no template. Like, there hasn't been the prior generation doing what we now know we can do. If you lift weights a certain way, if you do that high intensity, or you put in so many steps, We know the result. We know that if you look at your diet and optimize it for your gut and your DNA, what that's going to do for you. We know if you use all of these tools, what's possible, but we know it on a fractional, term because there hasn't been a whole collective generation that's gone through yet. So everybody's just a little bit nervous about that. But I also hear this in our community quite a bit. There are women in their 60s and 70s in our community. We've got women close to 80. And so if she stays in, we're actually really flipping 50, which is the whole goal. It's the whole flip 50. But they're wondering now, I wish I'd have known this 30 years ago. And so what is too late? Is there a too late to start hormone replacement therapy?
That's another boom. Let's bust that myth, because
Okay.
that is a myth. It's never too late. And I have had women in my practice
Yep.
in their late 80s, even in their early 90s, who've come in, or often it's like a patient of mine and they're like, "Can you help my mom?" And it's never too late. Now, obviously, it's better to start earlier because you're saving your brain, you're preventing the bone loss, you're helping your arteries and things. So obviously earlier is better, but it's never too late. I have given these women hormones and seen changes, seen their brain. I have this like envisionment, like imagine if I could be like the hormone fairy and go around to all the nursing homes and just give all the patients hormones. I think they'd empty out. I think it would be like mind blowing what would happen to these people's brains who are just atrophying because they're not being fed the hormones they need. It's a huge part of it. So it's never too late. I practice Bikram yoga, and he says that it's always like written on the yoga. It's never too late to turn around your health, and it's never too late to take hormones. You will get benefits. Yes, you'll get more the earlier you start. So spread the word, but it's never too late. It's never too late to start eating right or sleeping right or moving right. And it's just never too late. It's just a matter of deciding this is what you're going to do.
I'm going to ask that question again because I know that there's a disbeliever out there. There's a non-believer, and or there are women I know in my community, because I've spoken to two of them in the last 7 days, who went and they asked their doctor, and they're 10 or they're 14 years beyond, and they're being told, no, because it's been that long, it would be a greater risk for you to start now. Those are the words that are being spoken.
Yeah, I mean, I roll. I just the information, and this is why one of the major reasons I host this summit,
Yes.
because I will say that hosting a summit is no small feat. It is a full-time job. It is truly giving birth. I've been working on it for 9 months. And as soon as it's over, I'm going to turn around and start working on my fourth one because we're doing another one next year. And one of the reasons I do it, because I'm busy, I'm birthing a new clinic, right? And I have a private practice that's super busy on top of it. And, my own self-care and blah, 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 my life. I practice what I preach. I have good work-life balance. But I do it because there's so much misinformation that women are receiving in their doctor's offices, online, on Instagram, from people who say they're natural, but don't really teach the right things, and they mislead you and they confuse you. And so one of the things that I hope for out of the summit, which happens every year, is that you listen and you take notes and you get a checklist, so you then can go advocate for yourself and you can find a doctor who you can trust. So you'll listen and learn all the little tidbits that I teach, that come through my interviews, and
Yeah.
you'll have like this whole roadmap, because that makes zero sense to me. So if your body is in a hormonal desert, and even Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who just wrote that book. She's the neuroscientist who wrote that book, The Menopausal Brain. And
Yep.
she showed that the estrogen receptors start popping up. They're like doubling. They're like, when the estrogen is dropping, they're increasing because they're like, where is the estrogen? We need you. Maybe if we give you more receptors, you'll find us. And
Yeah.
so why would not, so you're in this hormonal desert. Why would replacing it down the road be detrimental? Now, I'm always talking about bioidentical hormones. And yeah, maybe if you're giving, I mean, I think synthetic hormones are detrimental anytime, even starting on time. But
Yeah.
replacing what your body recognizes, what your body produces, like a good example is progesterone. So low progesterone, there's many things that it relates to, but one of the biggest things is anxiety and sleepless nights. And so if you are not, and so these women that come into me, I like cry because they've been suffering for 10, 15, these women that are 88 or 90, they've been suffering for like 3 decades, not sleeping, having hot flashes, being anxious, and they don't know why. And you give progesterone, and literally, like the next day, you get a phone call at my office. Oh my God, I slept like a baby for the first time in 30 years. And so, why would you want to not give that to a woman? Why would you want to make a woman suffer when she doesn't have to?
Amen. Amen. So good. Okay. So I'm going to ask this question because this too is like an elephant in the room. It's overwhelming for a lot of women because potentially right now, and I'm hoping that this changes so much because we're going to be talking to our 30 somethings, to those younger women, our daughters-in-law. I now have one. That's so fun, and I'm like, I'm gifting you a bone density scan for your 30th birthday.
I love it.
Fun mother-in-law. Yeah, yeah. But I'm like, it's gonna be so fun. You're gonna
I
rock
took my daughter-in-law to do our scans together.
a day, not some. Okay. But but I think when you're in the middle of it, you began experiencing the hot flashes, the night sweats, or the weight gain and the stubborn. You're in the middle of it, and you're kind of bogged down with that. And then you get all this information, some of it good, some of it not good. There's so much conversation now about menopause that it's what has it been deemed the menopause gold rush, and people are talking who maybe shouldn't be talking. They're saying things that maybe we shouldn't be hearing. And that makes it overwhelming. So many women are like, this is hard. This is too hard to figure out, or there's too much information, or there are too many supplements. How do I know what to take? If you could say, okay, so we know you're going to the deserted island with your hormones, and what would be the next thing, the next layer of help me feel good quickly? What would that be?
Well, that's a great question, and it can differ for everyone. So I practice real personalized medicine. However, when menopause is such, because I also work with patients who are dealing with real serious diagnoses, whether it be cancer or autoimmune disease. And when we're looking root cause at that, the root cause can be different. It can be emotional, it can be energetic, it can be nutritional, it can be a toxic load. When we talk about menopause, there is this root cause of hormone deficiency. So the way I practice is I test, don't guess. I test with 24-hour urine testing, which is the gold standard. And so that's one for your little checklist. Like if your doctor doesn't do 24-hour urine wet testing, probably not very hormone literate. But I look at their hormones, I replace their hormones, and then I see them again in 3 to 4 weeks. And I see how they're responding. Now, a large percentage of the time, and I'm not really a percentage gal, but I would say maybe even upwards of 75%, a lot of them, they're just like, I got no complaints anymore. If I was meeting you today, I'd have nothing to say because the hormones were truly the cause. But then there are other women who haven't been moving their body, who may be going through the McDonald's drive-through when they shouldn't be, who aren't prioritizing sleep, who have an underlying autoimmune condition, who it's not carrying a toxic load, because the sad reality is we're all carrying a toxic load, but
Mhm.
their toxic load is burdening their body. They don't know how to excrete. It's the woman whose digestion is off or her bile isn't flowing. So those women need some other things. So when you say, like, what's the next thing?
Mm.
It's different for everyone, but
Yeah.
certainly movement, which is your wheelhouse,
Mhm.
you've got to be move, like, if you don't move it, you're going to lose it. You got to be moving. You have to be sleeping. You have to be hydrating. Like this, I fill this a couple of times a day, right? We've got our water with us. Yeah. Yeah. We both live in the desert, but hey, it's under 100 today. We are actually having a cold front. But you have to be hydrating. You have to be eating and prioritizing protein. You have to be chewing your food. I see this a lot. Women are prioritizing protein, but they don't have enough hydrochloric stomach acid, or they're eating on the rush. So they're not even getting the absorption, they're not getting the benefit of the protein that they are eating. So we have to be regulating our nervous systems. We have to find joy. We have to take a breath. We have to be in nature.
Mhm.
So what's the magic supplement? It's different for everyone. I mean, if I could take you to my kitchen right now, you'd be like, is this a kitchen or is this a supplement store? Because they're like everywhere. I've got like my afternoon ones on the counter, the evening ones are in the cabinet, there's the bedside ones there, so I love supplements, but what I need may not be what you need. For example, like DIM is a really common supplement that's very misunderstood. A lot of women think when you take DIM, you're taking estrogen,
Yeah.
but DIM just helps the estrogen metabolites.
Mhm.
And some women really don't need it. So I probably take more women off DIM than I do put them on it, because I'm looking at metabolites in the 24-hour urine. I'm looking at what you need. Do we all need some liver support when we're on hormones? Yes.
Mm.
So that's an important one. When you come to my office, I'm not a doc in the box just giving hormones and out you go. We're like handshaking and pinky swearing. We're going to take care of our livers. We're going to do all the things, or you don't get your hormones, because I want women to really take care of their bodies. And like, if someone says to me, oh, I'd rather have a pellet because I don't have to think about it rather than rub cream every day. I say, well, first of all, you're not getting a pellet, because pellets typically overdose people and they're not a good way to go. I see lots of problems with pellets. But more importantly, let's talk about why you don't have 30 seconds in the morning to rub some cream on your body. Like, let's prioritize here. Let's look at what's important to us. So I really put it back to, you are the owner of your body and you've got to care about it. I care about
Mm.
it. I want you to care about it too.
I love that. And I want to bring you back to pellets because I think um there's some women being sold pellets, by practitioners. And it's, I hear this also, but I also hear, well, it's working for me. And then I hear, okay, well, um, a lot of times people are using that, or practitioners are using that because it's all they've been trained in. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Can you say a little more about pellets and
Yeah, I can
yeah.
say a lot about pellets. So, first of all, yeah, so you have to do your due diligence, because there are doctors out there who know that hormones are a hot topic, and they go and take a weekend course, and often that's learning to insert pellets, and then they're off and running. And you want someone who really like lives, eats, breathes hormones, because hormones, there's a lot of hormones. We're just talking about progesterone or estrogen or testosterone. There's a lot of hormones and they're like a spider web. So if one moves, they all move, they pull on each other. So I used to work for a while, a couple of years ago. I took like this little gig at one of these med spas in Scottsdale, and they wanted me there to do bioidentical hormone replacement. So pretty much every woman that came in to see me was on pellets. And every woman that came in to see me was a mess. Their hair was falling out, they had acne, they gained weight, they didn't feel good, they had highs and lows. It was a disaster. And when I tested them all, their metabolites were off the charts. They didn't have any anti-inflammatory estriol protection. They didn't have the right balance of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. No one was supporting their livers. Their livers were like screaming. They were so overburdened. And so I learned very quick, mentally, I can also say, that it doesn't make sense. It's not a good way. You have no control of how it's being dosed out. You get this big rush. Women get on these testosterone highs and then they crash. So the other thing I'll say is there's never a every single woman, right? So I've been doing this so long. I have looked at 24-hour urines on tens of thousands of women, right? Like so many women. And so recently I had a woman who was on pellets. This was maybe over the last 6 months. She actually felt good and her levels actually looked good. So I said, all right, I'm a big fan of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yep.
So I said, make sure, you keep, you do a yearly 24-hour urine to make sure that doesn't change. But for her, it worked. But for 99% of the women out there that I see, it doesn't work and it puts them in a dangerous situation.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that because so frequently, and you talk to way more women specifically and deeply about hormones, obviously, than I do. But when I hear women say that they're on it, often I also hear those women say, well, it's those last few pounds, and maybe I just need to accept it. And I'm like, I don't know. I still strongly believe like that weight loss resistance, that's a clue, that's a sign we need to do, not to accept it and love your body anywhere you are, which yes, that on the journey to getting healthier, because we let that weight sit, and next decade we let some more sit, and pretty soon we have a metabolic problem that we could have avoided by listening right away. So I'm so glad you added that. So thank you. I want to ask you about the summit. So clearly, I mean, you've teased some really great topics and things. And there's one thing before I go here, I want to clarify. So many women in our community are used to hearing about the dried urine test. You're talking wet urine. This is different, correct? So clarify the two.
Yeah, it is. Dried urine has good marketing, it has good PR. So wet urine is an actual 20, I'm looking at like the orange jug, you get a big orange jug and you pee in it for 24 hours. And if you miss a sample, it's so important
Like
to
a
have.
mason jar kind of thing?
You want me to get it? I can
No.
get it.
Okay, yes. Okay,
What?
yes, I do. It's not a full one though, right?
The infamous orange jug. So you get a jug and you pee in it. You get a cup, you pee
Okay.
in the cup, then you pour the cup into the jug, and you do this for 24 hours. And so much so that I tell patients, because I've done this myself doing my own tests, like it's very easy to forget. You have to pee and you run to the bathroom, and then you're like, oh my God, I forgot to collect my urine. And then you got to dump out and start all over again. So I'm like, when I
Okay.
did it, I put signs on the bathroom door, I put the jug on the toilet. I'm like, and I tell women, it's a good day to stay home all day so you don't forget. But it's so important that you have all the 24-hour urine. And so the reason is because we get the whole circadian rhythm, and it's the best way of looking at your hormone production.
Wow.
And the dried urine is 4 samples, and dried urine has shown to not be accurate. A lot of women make mistakes. It doesn't constitute to accurate information, so much so that one of the labs that uses wet urine, they used to use dried urine and they stopped doing it because they couldn't quantify it and it wasn't accurate. So I know the dried urine is very popular,
Right.
but if a woman comes to me with dried urine, I'm like, don't kill me, I'm sorry, but I need accurate information, because a lot of things we can kind of figure out. Like when a woman is perimenopausal or younger than that and cycling, I often don't really need to test her hormones. I can tell, oh, she's having premenstrual issues. Oh, she's totally cold. She's losing her hair. She's got a low thyroid. Her liver's not processing. She needs some progesterone support. But as you age and your hormones drop, like you really need to see, like, because some women, they will still produce testosterone and they don't actually need testosterone support. Other women, I find that's the first hormone to go. So I have women test. We get their baselines, just make sure there's nothing funky going on. I
Mhm.
put them on hormones. 10 weeks later, they have to do another 24-hour urine test. So now I can compare, how are you feeling and what do your levels look like? And typically they feel great. And if their levels look great, you test once a year, and it's just for safety. It's just to be on top of things. You never know when things are going to change. And in the 24-hour urine testing, you're seeing how estrogen metabolizes.
Mhm.
And some estrogen metabolites are very protective. They're anti-cancer, they're anti-inflammatory. We actually want them. And some metabolites, no, not so good. They're more inflammatory. They cause DNA damage. And you can't like figure that out by symptoms you're having. You can only figure it out by seeing how the body's actually metabolizing.
Wild. A very great explanation. Asking for a friend. So, for instance, you've got a woman coming in who's on hormones, but feels like maybe they're not optimized. Would you have her do the 24-hour urine test while she's on the dose she's on now, or stop that and then do it?
That's a great question. I get it. We get asked that question a lot. So if a woman is on hormones and they're safe, they're bioidentical, and she feels pretty good and she's happy with her physician and just wants a second opinion, I say stay on your hormones,
Mhm.
and we'll check you, and then I will tell you everything's good, or you need to go back to your physician and increase your testosterone or decrease or whatever it may be. If a woman is on hormones and she feels like garbage, or they're synthetic, or they're not a good source of bioidentical hormones, and she really wants a baseline, I say stop your hormones for like 6 weeks, and then we can test you and get your baseline. So I know stopping your hormones was, but if they don't
I'm
feel good,
hearing the psycho music play in the background.
but if you're on hormones and you don't feel good, then, and that's another thing, like bioidentical. I learned this early on so when I first started treating menopausal women, I was in my early 30s. So like I wasn't in menopause. I was having my own premenstrual hormonal hell. But so I wasn't necessarily taking what I was prescribing, right? And so one day, one of my patients came in with, I think it was like her progesterone, and she showed it to me. And I was like, why is that orange? Like, why is your capsule orange? Like food, like artificial coloring. And so I like had a heart attack. I was like, oh my God, I called the pharmacy, which this is very beginning of my practice 23 years ago. So I don't work with the same pharmacy anymore. And they're like, oh yeah, we use dyes in our capsules and are bioidentical. And I was like, yeah, no. So like I am very particular on what my bioidentical hormones contain. We had a patient the other day who said she's on bioidentical estradiol from her doctor. Can she continue using it vaginally rather than purchasing it from the compounding pharmacy? So I'm like, sure, if you don't have to pay for it, fine. But I'm like, let me just see it. Let me just see the ingredients to make sure. So she texts over like a picture of it, and sodium lauryl sulfate, known carcinogen, and parabens, like plastics,
Oh,
like
no.
were in it. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not okay. So, word of advice, like if you're on bioidentical hormones, check like what are they filled with? What's in them? What are they made of? Like we had to take our capsules because we do like cortisol for your adrenals in a capsule, and we do progesterone, we do capsule and cream. They have different mechanisms of action. But I had to like take out the fillers. We fill ours now with acidophilus, which is beneficial bacteria for your gut. But you'd be surprised. So it's just like you have to channel your inner 2-year old when you're advocating for your health. And you have to keep going like, why? Why is that? What's this? You have to keep asking and drilling down, and don't just take someone's word for it, like ask to see. What do you mean by natural? Define that. Are you sure they're because even like bioidentical prometrium,
Mhm.
which the more progressive OBGYNs will give. And yes, it is a bioidentical, but usually it's in a artificially colored capsule, and the filler is peanut oil. So we know how we feel about seed oils,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it's oxidized and rancid. I'm sure it's not, freshly pressed. Even if it was, we still, and so it's not like if you were like, well, I just take it, I just have to take it once a week, once a year, 7 days a year, I'd be like, all right, let's not get crazy. But if it's something you're doing every day, like that adds up. So you just have to be really thinking about all these things.
Oh gosh. Okay. So many questions I want to ask you, but clearly that means for me and everybody watching, I hope you have your ticket and you're going to use that because we've got a free one for you so you can attend. I will be there too. I am going to ask you this though. In all of the interviews that you did, I mean, this is year 3, so you've done a lot of interviews, some repeat experts, some brand new experts. What this year shocked you, surprised you in those interviews? Does anything jump out at you?
Um, it takes a lot to shock me at this point, but what really made me, I just, I mean, of course, like your interview is so important because women need to know how to move and how to move at this time of our lives. And we have to move our bodies. We can't just take hormones and sit on our butts.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to love moving. I have a patient the other day. She's like, I hurt my ankle and I can't exercise it. Like a lot of people would be like, oh, I have an excuse. But she's like, I'm so upset. So, I mean, I think that's just so important. We dove into cardiac health with Dr. Joel Kahn, and we really, what I really did is like really make, like, I'm a clinician, so I like drive people. I'm like, I want to know the goods. Like, what do these women need to know to ask their doctor is what's going to make a difference, not just theoretical stuff. So
Mhm.
we really got down to like, these are the tests you need. This is what you need to have done because cardiovascular disease kills more women postmenopausally than anything else. So we think about breast cancer. I have a great interview with Dr. Jen Simmons about the
Right.
whole, does estrogen cause cancer? So come to the summit, you'll find out in detail, but I'll give you the sneak preview. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That's a myth. um, I interviewed,
Two redheads in one interview. Wow. Okay.
I know she put up a picture of the both of us the other day, and I was like, I feel like we're like one soul living in two bodies. So I interviewed Judith Orloff, Dawson Church, Eileen McCusick, Sue Morter. I interviewed all these like
Wow.
giants in the field of like energy medicine and mindset and your biofield. And that is good stuff.
Yeah.
So we are these energetic, spiritual, physical beings. And so I really wanted to bring both parts. Like you can't energetically or tap your way out of having to get your steps in or take your hormones. But it helps a lot when you do those things and do the physical stuff. So I love Dawson Church.
I
I'm
love
like,
the name. Oh my gosh.
he's like the EFT universe. He teaches people tapping, emotional freedom tapping. And these people are so embodied in their work. So, like, come and because I told all the women during the interview, I'm like, even though he's a guy, I'm like, you all need to channel your inner Dawson because he's just oozing of joy. Just really, really beautiful. So there's just, so much we cover from dentistry to EMF exposure because, it might be invisible, but it has very visible effects on your body. We talk about heart rate variability and scar therapy and quantum biology and blood sugar regulation and mold. I mean, because the way I view the body in general, like, is when I had to pick a niche, I was like, I'm going to pick menopause because everything, it's just an umbrella for how we heal. And as a naturopathic doctor, I specialize in the terrain in the body. So it doesn't matter if you come to me with an ear infection, with hot flashes, with autoimmune disease, with cancer. I understand how the body works, and your disease process is just an expression of imbalance in the body. So I really wanted to bring in experts from all areas so you could understand that this is a time to address your whole body, not just your hot flashes. I never had a hot flash. I never had any symptoms because, as I mentioned before, I was in my early 30s when I started working with menopausal women. And I was like a hormonal, oh my God. I had such bad PMS. Like literally, people would ask me all the time if I was pregnant because I was so bloated. I had the mood swings, I had the cravings, I had the headaches, I had the breast tenderness, I had the depression. I had it all. And I'd like be seeing these menopausal women, they were in this big baggy shirt because I'm so bloated. And I thought, gosh, I feel like a hypocrite. I'm helping them with their hormones. I'm watching these women in their 50s feel better than me in my early 30s. I thought I better start paying attention to my own hormones. So I did. And I started balancing my hormones like I was balancing theirs, just a little differently because I wasn't menopausal yet. But when I went through menopause, because I had prepared, pre-gamed, I never had a hot flash. I never had symptoms, but I still take my hormones because another myth, another thing we get wrong is
Yes.
that hormones
Yeah.
are just needed if we have symptoms. And
I'm
yet
so glad you said that. Yeah.
I love helping women feel better and get rid of their symptoms. It makes me very happy. I love to see women thrive and feel good. But even if you don't have symptoms, these hormones are supporting every system in your body. And so why are my hormones my besties? Because I don't want to get Alzheimer's or dementia. I don't want to have osteoporosis. I don't want to have heart disease. I don't want to have lung issues. I don't want to have urinary tract infections. I don't want to have immune dysfunction. I don't want to have digestive issues. I don't want to have joint pain and inflammation. I don't want my hair falling out, and so on and so on. So the hormones not only get rid of symptoms, which, by the way, to me, symptoms are sacred messengers. They're like, hello, you're not paying attention to me, so I'm going to make you pay attention. Knock, knock. Hammer, hammer. Some of us need to be hammered. We don't listen to the little knock. And so, but they're about prevention. They're about helping your body. We want to live long, but we want to feel good doing it. We don't want to live to 100 and be in pain and have no energy and all the things and lose our brain and our mind. So the hormones are not just to get rid of symptoms, they're to help you age your.
So good. All right. I'm in. I can't believe that anybody watching this won't be in. So in case you're still watching and you're right here, it is flipping50.com/mastering menopause. And we'll put that everywhere you're seeing this so that you can get in. Sharon, thanks so much for the work you do, not just for being here today, but the work you've done in these first three and what I know you're going to do in the future, helping so many. And we're going to be spoiled to death to be right here where you have this 7,000-foot clinic. So I'll be the first in line. Thank you again.
Thank you.